Good morning. Getting a slightly late start today, so I do apologize. And let me get a couple things set. All right, so welcome to VirtualPBX-admin training. You should be seeing on YouTube here the dash login screen, which is dash.virtualpbx.com. To log into Dash, you need a username, which is typically your email address, or in the form of an email address, password, which should have been emailed to you, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you didn't get the password email, for example, you can click on the Forgot Your Info link, put in your email address, and then either your account name or one of your company phone numbers. Those of you who were on vConsole and were upgraded to Dash, the email address or / username that was used would have been the same email address that was used for your password recovery on your extension under vConsole. And then again, the account name, typically your company name, or you can use one of the account phone numbers. Then you would click on the reset password. The system will email you with a link saying, hey, click here to reset your password. It will log you in so you can change your password. Once you've changed your password, it will log you back out to basically make you log in again with your new password. Now, once you have your password set, I recommend to most people just click on the check marks here for remember me, so that way you don't have to keep typing it in every time. Because I'm sure like most of us, or like many people, we all have too many passwords in our lives. All right, getting logged in here to Dash. If it's your first time logging in, what you actually first will see is this. This is your user information. You'll have a little pop-up with the Dash wizard walking you through things. The main thing people tend to change is their time zone and potentially the date and time display. Now, as an admin, you also have the account settings. And that's where, again, most people will change the time zone for the whole company to make sure you're on the correct time zone. Now, I'm showing you a test account. So for you, for admins, you also have another section here, which will be having your billing information, right? So you can update your credit card information here. You would see your plan information, and I believe you can download invoices as well. Now, once you're done on the account and user pages here, just click on the little close button at the top right, and that'll take you back to our dashboard. Up here at the top, again, this is if you click on your name, that will take you back to that account and user profile pages. Got the little question mark icon here, gets you to the various help things. First and foremost is chat with us. So that will open up a chat window so you can talk to our support team, and they can help you get set up with a feature that you're having trouble with. The Learn More link, that would open up a tab and take you to the support pages so you can look at the various features. Over here, we've got the online store. That just goes to store.virtualpbx.com. And here you can order things like VoIP phones or a headset, routers, etc., as well as our soft phone app. And then this link here is the web phone. This only shows up once you've added a web phone to your user. And for most migrated customers, you already automatically have a web phone added to your users. And the web phone, basically, it's a soft phone that uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. All right, here we got the 3 hamburger menu icon, or 3 horizontal line menu icon. We sometimes refer to it as a hamburger icon. Right now we're on the dashboard, and then you can get to these other features here as an admin. Your standard users will have always have access to the user portal, no matter what. Depending on if they have access to queues, is if they're added as an agent in a queue. And then you've got the logout icon up here. On the left, these are the major features of Dash, which we'll be going over. And then in the middle here, so we have total users. These are all the people on the account making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, adding users can increase your bill. So that's something to be aware of. Then we got total devices. So for my 29 users, I have 58 devices. And then a breakdown of those devices. So I've got several cell phones here, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, I've got 18. And again, that's a type of soft phone that uses Chrome and Firefox. Soft phone, right? Software application that you use your internet connection to make and receive calls. Can be on a computer, can be on a tablet, can be on a smartphone. SIP phone, this is a type of a VoIP phone. This is a physical device, right? So it's a phone that sits on your desk. You can pick up the handset and dial out from it. SIP being a particular subtype, right? There are other kinds of VoIP phones out in the world. So if you're out shopping for one or going online shopping for one these days, you want to make sure it's a SIP compatible or SIP compliant phone. And then I have landlines here as well, pretty self-explanatory. Now, this unregistered devices line here, where I have 21, that's typically in reference to the VoIP devices, right? So the SIP phone, the soft phone, the web phone. And it's saying that 21 devices are not registered, meaning that they're not connected to us, right? So we can't send calls to them. We can't get calls from them. That can be simply it's not on. In the case of the app or the web phone, they're not logged in. It could be the dog ran by and ripped out the cable, the internet cable on your SIP phone. It could also be you lost your internet connection. There's any number of possibilities. Next up, we got total phone numbers, and I think I just clicked on it like I do sometimes. So every account has an allocation of phone numbers as part of their base plan, right? The minimum is 1 phone number. And the maximum for our standard plans is 15 phone numbers, right? And that's included as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that allotment, then it's $4.99 per month per phone number. So no matter what, I'm paying a lot here for phone numbers. And then we got a breakdown here. You can have assigned numbers versus spare numbers, right? Assigned numbers means they're going someplace. They're one of your main numbers, for example. Your conference number, they can go to directly to one of your users or to a ring group, a queue, etc. Spare number means you're not using it right now. That could be because you only save it for special promotions. And then when you're not running that promotion, you just mothball the number. So that way you're not getting extra calls that you don't care about. Could be you got a block of numbers that were in sequence and you just haven't gotten to some of those numbers yet. Now, for spare numbers, if you're over your allotment, you would still be charged for those spare numbers, even though they're not ringing anywhere. So that is something to keep in mind. The other breakdown here we have is USDID and US toll-free. Right, toll-free, 800-888, all the way down to 833. USDID just means US local number, right? So a number, say, in Phoenix, Arizona, versus, say, a number in, say, Charlotte, North Carolina, any place in between. You can also have another category here for international phone numbers. If you're interested in an international phone number, you want to email our porting team, so porting, P-O-R-T-I-N-G, at virtualpbx.com. And they'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a phone number in. They'll let you know if it's possible to get that number and or if there is additional requirements. Some countries, like Germany, for instance, requires proof of presence within that city, like a utility bill is usually sufficient. Other countries don't care. Others have even more stringent requirements. It's going to vary from country to country. Down here, we've got conference bridges. What this means is because I've added a main conference number to this account already, I have also then enabled 6 of my users to host a conference. That's all that conference bridges is telling me. Up here to the right, we've got our main numbers first and foremost. So these are your general company numbers that your customers probably call by default, right? Or especially new customers who don't have an established relationship with you yet. These numbers will all behave the same fashion, meaning they'll have the same initial routing, and they will all have the same main greeting, for example. Next up, we've got the conference number. You can have several conference phone numbers. Basically, these are just the numbers people call, including your staff, to access the conference room. And then we've got the main fax box number. You can have one fax box number. Adding one does enable faxing on the system. The fax box number itself is where people will be faxing you documents. And then by enabling faxing, it enables the Dash's email to fax feature, so you and your staff can create an email to send out a fax. All right, then we've got the company directory. This is a download link. It's a text file that gets downloaded, and it shows all the users and their extension numbers. All right, pretty easy. Then we've got the soft phone directory. This is relatively new. This is for use with our desktop soft phone application. You download this file, and then you would upload it to the desktop soft phone. And then you will see all the other users with the desktop soft phone. You can also see their status, like if they're on a call, for example. And obviously, that makes it easy to contact your colleagues via that. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store. So save you a little money on, say, buying a VoIP phone. And then we have the count realm here. This is used in a couple of places. First, it's used to program a third-party device or application, right? So if you're going to use a soft phone application from someone other than VirtualPBX, or when we get to the auto provisioning of phones, you have a VoIP phone, but that doesn't show up in that auto provision list. You would use the realm as one of the key pieces of information to set up that either software or device. The other thing that this account realm is used for is for sending out a fax. So email to fax, you or staff member would create a new email. In the to field of that email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, and then the area code and phone number that you're faxing to, followed by the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you simply attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. You don't need to type in the body of that email because anything you type in that body of the email does not get transmitted to your fax recipient. The system only grabs the attachment. And the system will only send one attachment per email. Right? So if you include 5 attachments, only one of them is going out. If your email includes a signature file, you're going to want to remove that as well, to just make sure that your PDF file is the one that gets sent out. All right, up here we've got caller ID. This is for your main numbers. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't show all the pull downs all the time, but you can select any of your main numbers. And then you've got the company caller ID name. In this field, you can input up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. And then once you would click on Save Changes, this information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. That takes about 3 business days for all of their servers to get updated. Can be a little bit less than that, but 3 business days is what to expect. A couple things to keep in mind about CNAME. Not every carrier your call can route through supports CNAME. So if that happens, your CNAME information does not get transmitted through to the device you're trying to call. There's not really a lot we can do about that because we can't make other companies do things. Even for the carriers that do support CNAME, it's not a high priority. Right, first priority, connect the call, followed by the caller ID, the actual phone number. And then in distant third is the CNAME information. So for any carrier, if they're having heavier than expected call volume, the CNAME information may not get through. And obviously, if they're having an outage or a maintenance issue of some sort, again, probably not going to get through. All right, down below that, I should say, we've got the company emergency information, or the E911. So this would be the address associated with this particular phone number, like your company headquarters address, for example. And this would be some of the information that, or for this phone number, any of your VoIP devices that are associated with it, that would be the default address that would be sent to emergency services if someone picks up a VoIP phone, dials 911. So any changes here, you just click on Save Changes. All right, hold music. So on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has come in and connected to a user, and then that user presses hold on their VoIP phone. Now you can upload your own hold music. Dash will play back .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files. You would just click on this upload button, find the file on your computer, and then click on this little upload icon here, and then click on Save Changes. For that file you upload, you want to make sure, again, it's .wav, .mp3. You want to record that in mono and keep it under 1 megabyte. That's something that our engineers will be looking into to increase the file size, but we have for sure confirmed that 1 megabyte will work. Sometimes you can get a little larger file to go through, but that's not consistent. And a 1 megabyte MP3, for example, is roughly 5 minutes long. And then, of course, you would click on Save Changes. All right. Hours is actually part of main number, so let's just dive into main number here. All right, first section, your main company numbers. So you click on this, you'll see your main numbers. If you don't want to use one any longer as a main number, you would just click on Unassign. And then that puts that number in spare, right? So it's still on your account. You haven't deleted it yet. If you want to add a number, you have your options here. You can add from spare. So the number I just unassigned, I can put back, for example. Or you can buy a new number, right? You have your local or toll free. So if you choose local, it's going to ask you for an area code. So let us look at, let's do 669. That's the new overlay for San Jose. All right, and then you'll see a list of numbers. And if you scroll down, the list will continue and propagate. And then you can click on Add. It adds it to your little cart here, tells you the number. You have the option to delete. And you can add multiple numbers at once this way. Now, I'm in main number, so when I add numbers here, they're all going to be added as main numbers. So here I can add 2 just to display this. So in this process, the system is verifying that the numbers were still really available, and then putting them on your account and putting them activated. And now you see, hey, I have 2 new numbers. Once you've added numbers, you got this little gear icon to the right. You can adjust the caller ID and the E911. Prepend, this is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put additional text in front of the caller ID that will show up on the VoIP phone's displays. So basically give you and your staff a heads up about what the call might be about, right? Special promotion number, what have you. Now, for any place where you can add a number, you can do the by numbers thing, right? So, and then it adds it directly into that spot. When we get to the numbers tab on the left here, you can also add numbers there, but it doesn't assign it anywhere. All right, office hours strategy. So for new signups, you start off at 24-hour open office. For our customers who are migrated over to Dash, we will map what your current day-night mode settings were onto your account, so that's something you don't have to worry about. Most customers are on custom office hours. For each day of the week you're open, you put a check mark, and then you put in your hours of operation on these boxes to the right here. That's in 24-hour or military time. You also have down here at the bottom is, are you closed for lunch? If you put a check mark here, again, you can put your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time sequence. Next up, we got office holidays. Check mark if you are closed for holidays. And then over here to the right, you've got add holiday. You have single day, date range, and advanced. Each one of those creates a new row. So for single day, for example, I've got President's Day. You put in the month and the date, and then you would click on Save Changes. Date range, you got we have Christmas as an example here. Again, the start date, so December 23rd, and then the end date, December 26th. One caveat for date range is for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You'll notice that there's no year indicator. So you do not want a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because the system will just put you in after hours mode all year long. So do single day for those 2 days. It's the safest way. All right, advanced, like this retreat example here. I'm saying the first Friday in July, we're just on holiday, right? It's our company picnic day. And you can choose like, second, third, or first Friday, last Friday, whatever, or whatever day of the week. And again, any changes, you would click on Save Changes. All right, now we get to the big kahuna, incoming call handling. So we're still under your main number here. So for all your main numbers, and then under open hours, how do you want the system to handle those calls, right? You also have sub-tabs here for during after hours and for holidays. If you click on that and saved for if you're closed for lunch hours, you would also have a lunch hours tab. Now the options are all basically the same. So during my open hours on any of my main numbers, calls come in. In this case, I'm having them go to my virtual receptionist. If I click on virtual receptionist, because that's a link, it opens up the virtual receptionist here. On the left is the main menu, right? This is what people press on their phone to navigate through the system beyond just entering an extension number. And then over on the right, we've got our greetings. So on your main menu, if you want to add these various options, right, you would click on Add Route. Again, this is a pull down. So you would have basically 0 through 9 plus the default route, and then a location that you're sending it to. Now, in terms of the locations, right, it's everything on your account. So Smart Directory, right, to the user directory so they can dial by name. You can send it to a specific user. You can send it to a ring group. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device, right? So you want to ring it to Bob's phone, you can do that. You can send it to a media file, so you can basically play another greeting. Just one warning about that is after the greeting finishes playing, then the call ends. You can probably get around that with multiple auto attendants. And scroll down here. Oh, you can, it's mentioning ring groups, and then you can also send it to a voicemail box. Right, you've got little icons here, right? This is voicemail icon. You've got a group icon here. That's a queue icon, individual person, and then directory. Over here on the greetings, you got text to speech, right? Type in a greeting, click update. You click on save and then save changes. That's the computerized or robotic voice, right? There's no charge for that. If you're new to PBX systems in general, I usually recommend starting off with text to speech until you get used to it or until you're sure about how you're going to have calls route. You can upload your own file. .wave.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. All right, again, just choose the file on your computer, and then you would click Update. Choose from existing recordings, so any text-to-speech, call-in recording, or uploaded file you can select from on your system, and then you would click Update here. Recorded over the phone. Now, we're in open hours, so you can call in, and by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone, but there's a setting right down here that you can change that. And then you have this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day. Right, so my open hours, it's this PIN number. That PIN number will not work if I call in during my after hours or during my holiday hours. The system won't recognize it. It'll say invalid PIN. So if you don't have any greetings in place and you call into your main number, you will get a message saying there's been no greeting recorded for this menu. At that point, you can enter in your PIN number, and the system will then walk you through recording a greeting, and then it will be in place. If you already have a greeting in place, right? So you say you have greeting A is currently playing, and you call in, right? The main greeting A starts playing. You can enter the PIN number, and then again, it'll walk you through recording a new greeting. Now, that new greeting, its file name will be greeting A, right? The contents will have been overwritten with what you just recorded. So if greeting A is something you want to reuse later, you're going to want to like make a copy of it or change your greeting temporarily and then call in and then have that second file become the temporary one. Professional recording services, once you click order, this will take you to a site run by Snap Recordings, who we have partnered with. They have between 80 and 100 voice actors to choose from between men and women. They have various versions of English. Right? You can have UK English greeting if you want. They have different versions of Spanish and French, so you can have a multilingual greeting. They also have what they refer to as hold treatment, so you can have a musical file play and then a script be read, music file, that sort of thing. They handle their own billing, i.e. they want a credit card. They deliver via email, and then you can upload the file through here. All right, these settings down here, number of retries on missed dial. Basically, how many times can someone enter in an invalid option? So let's say 7, for example. After that second they hit 7 2 times. After that second time, the system says either goes to the default route in this case, or if you don't have a default route, it will end the call. Say, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. Dialing timeout, this actually should be a full integer, so like 1 instead of 0.1 or 0.01, excuse me. What this is how much time the system gives the inbound caller to after its last button press before it stops listening for the second button press, right? So say I put in 10:24. I can make the system wait, anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds, for example. After that 4, right? It'll wait, say 3 seconds, and then okay, that's all they're entering. I'll send it to extension 1024. And typically, for most customers that I've encountered, they usually like it like around between 1 and 3 seconds. And then this last one here, allow outside recording. What that is doing is allows you to call in and enter your PIN number from a cell phone or a landline, right? So not restricting you to just a VoIP phone. Now, we typically recommend you have that on off until such time as you're going to call in yourself or your staff members to record a new greeting, because you don't want random people just trying to mess with your greeting, because there are people who will do that. Now, we don't typically, or at least I don't recommend a default route for most customers anymore, and that's just because of robodialers, right? Because a robodialer can come in, they'll hear your greeting play a couple times as they're waiting, as the system waits for them to enter an input. And with a default route in place, then that robodialer ends up to, say, in this case, a smart directory, but it could end up to a voicemail box or to one of your users. If it's a voicemail box, you're going to get that message with, just traffic noise or, random foreign language message or what have you. So normally just say, hey, just get rid of the default route. And then any changes you make here, you click on save. And then you want to click on save changes here. All right, second option, call comes in, I'm offering it to Bob. If Bob doesn't pick up, then it goes to that virtual receptionist that we were just looking at, right? Because it's still open hours. Same options. Now, this is a pull down, so you can select any of your users. You can send it to any of your call queues, devices, a media file, if you want it to. That might be a little odd because then your caller is going to hear two messages. You can send it to ring groups, which is actually typically fairly common. All right, but basically what this is it's giving a staff member or a group of staff members an opportunity to answer the call first, and then if they're not able to, go to the virtual reception. All right, third option here, call comes in, offered to Bob, and if Bob isn't able to answer it, goes to his voicemail box. Again, you have the same options here, right? You can send it to a user, a group, a media file, a queue, etc. You also have one additional option way down here at the very bottom, which is to skip to voicemail, and then you can choose which voicemail box you want it to go to. And then you would click on Save Changes. So typically, again, you're trying to offer a call to somebody, not able to answer, goes to voicemail. This one I usually typically suggest to customers for, like, if they're going to be closed for the holidays. So for their holiday option, just select something like this. So that way, hey, they can offer to one of my staff members, my holiday person. And if they don't get it, it goes to their voicemail box, so then they can call the people back. Or if you do skip the voicemail, just saying, hey, we're closed for the holidays, we'll call you on our next business day. Over here, we've got the advanced call flows, so I can send it to one of my other auto attendants, but this is not typically used. Mostly people stick with these first three. So your after hours and your holidays, they're going to have their own auto attendant or virtual receptionist, right? So their own different, you have a separate set of menu options. You'll probably have a different set of greetings. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, main conference number. Again, you can add numbers from spare or buy new numbers. The custom greeting, you can enter in a text greeting. Even if you don't enter a custom greeting, when anyone calls your conference number, the system will prompt you, please enter the conference room number, and then enter the PIN number, and then you can join the conference. A fax box number, again, you can only have the one. Now, on this account, edit the fax box gives me an error message. On your accounts, you'll get a pop-up that will open up with two fields that you can enter in information. The first field is for an email address for whoever's going to receive all your inbound faxes. They'll get an email with a PDF attachment, so they can look at all the faxes right on their computer. The second field is for outbound permissions, right? So who's allowed to fax out. If you own your own company domain, right? So you own @abccleaners.com, for example. Then you could add that domain at abccleaners.com in that second field. And then any of your staff members who have an email address, they can fax out without being a user on Dash, right? They just need to do that +1 area code and phone number, @ the account realm, and then simply attach a PDF. One thing to keep in mind about the main fax box number, if someone calls that number, like from a phone, then here's the fax tone that hangs up, you will still get an email notification letting you know you had a failed. Oops, sorry, I might have had a connection issue go on there. All right, let's go on to devices. So devices shows all your devices on the account. Green means it's connected or registered with us. Red means it's not registered. Black means it's been disabled. Let me check something here. All right. Up at the top here, you can click on New Device. And you can, the first one here is SIP phone. Right, so this is that physical VoIP phone. You can choose your device manufacturer. We'll say Cisco here. And then you would choose your device type model. And then at the bottom, you need to give it a device name, so like Bob's phone. And then you enter in the MAC address, right? Each VoIP phone has its own individual MAC address. Usually it's a sticker on the back of the phone. Could be on the box itself. You can also click on when you have the phone powered up, if you click on status, normally one of the statuses you can get to is to get the MAC address. And then you would click on create device. Now, within the dashboard, the only other thing you would have to do is assign that device to a particular user. On the phone, you need to log into the phone's web user interface and enter in a URL. Now, that information you can find on our website, right? So virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and then select dash support, and then look for the document named auto provisioning phones. It's going to be on the right-hand side under VoIP phones. I believe it's the 5th or 6th one down. That will have screenshots and the actual URL you need to put and where to put it in. All right, next up we got cell phone. Cell phone and landline are the same. You give it a device name, and then you put +1, right, +sign, number 1, area code and phone number, assign the phone to a user, and click on create device. Now, when Dash offers a call to a cell phone or a landline, by default, what happens is your phone will ring, and then when you pick up, you'll hear a message, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call, right? It hears that tone, it connects the call to you. Now, in instances, there are some instances where that's not what you want, right? Like, for instance, you're actually sending calls to an automated answering service. Or you actually want calls to get right in, you're okay with your inbound callers getting to your cell phone's voicemail. In that case, you want to put a check mark in this top option here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail, and click on Save Changes. So now you don't have to press 1 to accept the call, right? You pick up, the call connects. So for your automated answering services, that's perfect, right? Because they'll just pick up, and then that answering service will take over the call. Right? For your cell phone, if you don't pick up, but your cell phone voicemail picks up, right, then the caller ends up there. Again, that particular use case is personal preference. The other thing that people tend to look at is this one here, is the keep original caller ID. So again, when that call comes to you on a cell phone, right, so customer Mary is calling in, and it rings to your cell phone. On your cell phone, you will see Mary's phone number, right? You may not recognize it. You're like, I have no idea who this is. I'm just going to let the call go to voicemail because I don't recognize the number. If you uncheck this, right, in terms of uncheck keep original caller ID, what happens instead is when Mary calls in, right, she gets to you, to your extension, to your cell phone. Instead of seeing Mary's phone number, you see the phone number she called in on, right? So one of your main numbers, right? So hopefully you would recognize that, oh, hey, that's a work number. Let me take this call. All right, soft phone. Again, you get a little warning message here saying, hey, you're going to be moving around, so you're calling 911 from a mobile or from a soft phone. You may not actually send emergency service to the correct address, so be aware. Now, it starts you off as using a third-party application. You can, it's kind of hard to see here, but it's grayed out. So if you're going to use, say, a cell phone application from a company called Counterpath, right? This is what you would do. You'd give it a name. You would use the SIP username, and if you click on the SIP password box, you'll see the SIP password, and then you would use the account realm to set up that application or that VoIP phone that didn't show up on the auto provision list. Again, you would assign it to an owner, then you would click on Create Device. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, then what you want to do is click here where it says Use Third-Party Application. Right, click that. It flips it. So now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. You give it a device name, you assign it to an owner, and then you click on Create Device. So then whoever you assign it to gets an email saying, hey, here's your login information for your VirtualPBX soft phone. If they're going to be using it on mobile, then they can just go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and download the file. They can just look up VPBX phone, download the file, log in, they're good to go. If you want to use the desktop soft phone app, then you're going to want to go to the web store, online store here, and order the desktop app because that does require a licensing fee. Don't forget your discount code, and then you'll get an email with the download links for those. And then web phone, pretty similar. Again, you get that same warning message, and then you give it a name, and then you assign it to a person. You click on Create Device. The web phone, right, you can access going to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It asks you to log in. It uses the same login information as your Dash login, right? So same email address, same password, same account name. Again, just use Chrome or Firefox, and then you can make and receive calls. Obviously, you would need a mic and speakers at the very least, if not a headset. And you can also add the devices directly on the users instead of doing it here, if you're so inclined. Next up, we've got the Greetings Manager. It shows your greetings on the account, right? You got their name, the source, TTS, text-to-speech, upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means you recorded over the phone. You can download the file so you can listen to it, make sure it's still relevant. And if you click on the little wrench icon here, you can change the name or delete. All right, groups. That's shorthand for ring groups. Adding a group, click up here. You give the group a name and you give it an extension number. And then you click and drag the people you want to be in this group. And then you click on Create Group. Now, once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right, you can always change the name. And then you've got the dialing repeats. Got these little arrows to the far right. Basically, what this controls is how many times that inbound caller can ring through to the group, right? So default is 1, so each of your staff member has 1 chance to answer that call, right? And if you increase it, then they have more chances. And then you can obviously delete the group. If you click on the members box, you will see your staff members here. Looks like we removed a user here, so you could remove a staff member. I can also add a user. Say we can add here. Now up here, this is your total ring time within that group. So 120 seconds. I can click distribute. So now everyone has an equal amount of time. Now these are sliders. So I can do something like this. This is referred to as blast ringing, right? Ringing everybody at the same time for the same amount of time. Right, so now everyone's going to be rung for that entire time. Now, if I decide to change things around, I can change the order, which in this particular case probably doesn't matter much, but if I click distribute now, This person I just added becomes the first person in order. All right. Groups can have extensions and phone numbers, and they can even have multiple extensions if you want. Again, you can add a phone number to a group here. Right? You can either add from spare or buy a new number. And then you've got group features. All right, so ringback, this is a media file, right? So you can upload .wav, .mp3 under 1 megabyte recorded in mono. And you find the file on your computer. And then you would click on upload and then save changes. That file you want to make sure plays as long as your total ring time of the group, right? So default is 120 seconds because the system does not automatically loop the file for you. All right, next action. If no one answers call, what do you want the system to do? Right, in this case, I'm setting him to Bob's voicemail box. But you have all these same options, right? You can send it to your main menu. You can send it to a specific device. All right, I can send it to a specific user. You can send it to another group and a voicemail box. Allow call forward. If you enable this, you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at the phone that they're normally sitting at, so they can forward it to like their cell phone, for example. Caller ID prepend, again, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can put either additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID, so it shows up on their phone so they know what the call is about. All right, phone numbers, or numbers, shows your numbers on your account and where they're going. Right, you got the little gear icon next to any number, so you can adjust the caller ID, E91, and prepend. Spare numbers, this is for any number you're not using, right? You can, if you want to get rid of it from your account, i.e. you want to save some money, click on the little box in front of it, and now you've got the option to delete. Click on delete numbers, so you've successfully deleted the number, and now you don't have any spare numbers. You can buy more numbers here if you want to, right? And like it'll by default put them in spare numbers until you assign them somewhere. Port, this will start the port process. So port just means you're moving a number from one carrier to another. So say from Verizon to VirtualPBX, and you basically just follow the on-screen instructions. The main things that we need are a completed and signed letter of agency, or LOA. In that port process, you can download a blank one. You can also find a blank LOA on our website under --support. On that LOA, it's going to ask you for your company information, and that is what your current carrier has on file. So for like what Verizon has for your company name, that's what you should put on the LOA, as well as the service address, right? What location. It does need to be actually signed. It could be a digital signature or physically signed, but where it asks for customer signature, that's what it needs to happen. It can't be just typed. For local numbers, we do need a copy of your bill, and you can upload that in the port process here. One thing to keep in mind for mobile numbers, once the port completes, a couple things. One, for mobile numbers, we do need that copy of the bill. We'll also need a PIN number. This is an account PIN that you'll have to get from your carrier. This is a security feature for cell phone numbers so they don't get ported randomly. right? So it's acknowledgement. Yes, I want this ported out. When a cell phone number ports out, the cell phone that's associated with will no longer work, right? Because it doesn't have a number anymore. That number is on your VirtualPBX account. So then you would have to get a replacement phone number to get that in place, or to get that cell phone to work again. All right, users. This is all your users on the account. Little gray person icon is your standard user. Person with little blue suit icon is an admin. Click on add user up here. Enter in their name, their email address, which that's what they use to log in with. You create a password for them. And then you enter an extension number for them. Now, on this account, I started off with extension 1000. And so the system is saying, hey, your next available extension in that range, or in that sequence, is 1030. I can change that. I can make it 5420. All right. And now you've got these other options here. First, create a voicemail box for this user. Now, that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to that user. It's like their default voicemail box. Then you've got include the user in the company directory, or the smart directory. Send emails to an alternate address. This email address would supersede anything that gets sent to this email address, right? So for like voicemails, by default, they get sent to the login email address. If you don't want that, or for instance, you have a group of people who use one generic email address for all of them, well, you would need to create, let's say you use support at VirtualPBX, and that's for like 5 people. You could then, for their login, you could put support1 at virtualpbx.com, right? Support2, etc. So that way they each have their own login on Dash. And then you can use the alternate address for their voicemail notifications and their password reset to say like to their personal email. And then this one here is probably the most important in my opinion. Send credentials to the user, right? So once you click on create user, this person gets an email either to this address here or the alternate address if you've included that with their login information to get into Dash. Obviously, if you need to create more than one person, you would use create user and add another. All right, when you have a user created, you can click on their name, right? You can change their name. You can change their email address and their password. You also have the option here to send them the password reset, right? So if Bob, for whatever reasons, can't remember the passwords I create for him, I can just say, hey, click on this instead, sends a password reset. He can create his own password, hopefully that he'll remember. Voicemail box pin. Again, this is so they can access their voicemail box. Now, if your staff is going to use VoIP phones, you don't actually have to create a pin for them. From their VoIP phone, they can hit *98, and that logs them directly into the voicemail box that was created for them when you created the user. And the first time they do that, the system prompts them to create a PIN number and then to create a voicemail greeting. For your cell phone and landline users, you do need to create a PIN number for them ahead of time. All right, you got here the option to send to alternate address, and then the option to show in the user directory. This is a pull down, so you can change a user to an admin, or you can change an admin down to a user. This is a time zone, so you can adjust the time zone for the user. This is the language that Dash displays in, so you can change English, French, Russian, and German. Ringing timeout. This is the default amount of time the system will try to connect to devices on the user. Now, the default amount of time is 20 seconds. This one has been up to 45. If your user is using a cell phone, you probably want to up it to 45, if not 60 seconds. Your landlines and VoIP phones, there should be fine at 20 seconds. And that's simply because it takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does, say, to a landline, right? Your landline telecom company knows exactly where to send the call every time it comes to your phone number because it's at a fixed location. Whereas your cell phone company, when a call comes to you, they have to find you first, right? So they're pinging you off the cell phone towers like, oh, there you are. then they send a call, right? That little bit of delay, as far as a PBX system is concerned, is fairly significant. From your experience, right, your phone rings, you answer. All right, users can have multiple extensions. Right, click on the extension box, you can add additional extension numbers if you're so inclined. Phone numbers, users can have their own phone numbers. Right, you can click on the caller ID, their E911, and prepend if they have VoIP phones. Here are the devices. Again, you can add devices directly to a user, right? You got the same options. Or you can add from spare devices if you have devices that you don't have assigned to anyone yet. And then we got user features. All right, so caller ID number, this is only available if they have their own phone number, but you turn it on, and then whenever this user makes an outbound call from their VoIP phones, this is the caller ID that shows up instead of one of your main numbers. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. So call forwarding, if you turn it on, means, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone, send it to this other phone number. On failover mode, it's basically for your VoIP phone users, right? So the system detects that your VoIP phone went offline, a call comes into your user at that time, it will automatically send it to your forwarding device. Now, the forwarding device, right, so say your cell phone, should not be a device on Dash, because it's just a backup. Right? If instead you're actually taking calls on your cell phone day to day, then you would add it as a device, and then you wouldn't make use of call forwarding unless you're sending it to like some other phone number that you're not using regularly. Hot desking, another VoIP feature. When you enable this, it asks for hot desk ID. I say usually just match it to an extension number for the user, and then up to you if you want a PIN number. But what this is in a case where your staff can switch desks from day to day, right? So today's Tuesday, I walk into the office, I sit at desk number 7, I pick up the VoIP phone that's there, I hit *11, that turns on hot desking. The system prompts me for the hot desk ID and PIN number, if applicable, and then tells me calls will be now forwarded to this device. So as I work through my day, any calls that come to my user is going to ring at the phone I'm sitting at. At the end of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Tomorrow morning when I walk in, someone's already at desk number 7. I'm like, okay, whatever. There's desk number 22. I'll sit there. Again, pick up the handset, hit *11, enter my hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at this desk. Voicemail box, again, that's turned on because you created it at the user. Fax box. You can create individual fax boxes for your users. This is so they can receive their own faxes. I recommend making use of a phone number. You can choose, right? You can buy a number, select from spare. You can also create a new extension, right? So basically a second extension for this user for faxing. The downside of that is you need to make sure that the person faxing to you, right, they have to call your main number first, and then during the greeting, they have to enter in that fax extension number, and then click send fax. And I'm not sure how well that would work, let's say, from an email to fax service. Conference Bridge, if you enable it, it shows you the phone number. Here's your conference room number. And then as an admin, you create a PIN number and click on Save Changes. Now the user will be able to change that under their user portal. Follow Me, this is for users with multiple devices. When you enable it, this is the default. Everything says to do not ring. So you uncheck the devices that you want them to work. Up here again, you've got that default ring time. You can click distribute. Again, sliders just like under groups. So I can do blast ringing. I can also change the order and click distribute. Obviously, if more devices, you would have more to work with. Music on hold. users, you can have users have their own custom music on hold file, right? You would just click enable, you upload the file, click on the little upload icon, .wave, .mp3, recorded in Mondo under 1 megabyte. Customize call recording. When you enable it, you get to choose which ones you want to turn on, right? So inbound internal, right? Coworker Bob called me. That's what I'm recording. Inbound external means a customer call came in. Outbound internal means I called coworker Bob. And then outbound external means I called a customer. And then click on Save Changes. And then Do Not Disturb, that would send all calls to the voicemail box of this user. Voicemail boxes. So this will show all your voicemail boxes, right? So your users have their notation here. You can create your own voicemail boxes here. So for like your ring groups, for example, give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Once you've created it, you click on the little wrench icon. You want to go to Advanced and go to Media. Now, the media file here, this is the default for that voicemail box. So you can upload, again, .wave, .mp3, recorded mono. You can also record over the phone, right? You can call in to your main number, hit *97, enter in the voicemail box number, right, 453, and then the PIN number. And then you can record over the phone. The other thing is you got a temporary file here. This is for like out of office or vacation, right? So say Bob's going to be on vacation for a while. I can put in a temporary greeting file saying, hey, this is Bob. I'm out of the office from here to here. Please leave a message. And then when Bob gets back, I put this back to none, and then the default media file will play. Recipients. So for a manually created voicemail box, you definitely want to add at least one recipient. For any of your user voicemail boxes, you can adding recipients. This will be an addition to the user, right? So the user email login, right? That gets an email whenever there's a voicemail. You can add recipients to add extra people, right? Someone's backup, for example. And then you have options. So once you have a greeting file and the recipients, then you can click on Already Set Up. Of note here, by default, new voicemail boxes have delete after notification enabled. What that means is voicemail comes in, the system sends out an email, right, to either the user, if it's a user voicemail box, or the recipients. And it includes an attachment that you can click on to listen to the file. Once that email goes out and this is checked, then the system deletes the voicemail from the account. That's because voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages. And once you get to 100 messages, if anyone tries to leave a message, they get an error message essentially saying, voicemail box is full, please try again later. You also have here attached messages to email. Now, if you don't want your staff to get the email attachment, right, you want them to log into the system either on the website or over the phone to check their voicemail, or that's what they prefer, then you can uncheck this and then this. At the very least, you want to uncheck this one, but you can also just uncheck that one. So that way they don't get the attachment as well. Advanced routing. This is mostly for our migrated customers. Assuming it loads up. Try that one more time. There we go. All right, so first up here, we've got direct inward system access. Actually, let me start by disabling that. All right, so you click on and enable. It gives you a PIN number. You can edit the settings. All right, so you can adjust the PIN number there. You can also add an extension. So for example, 1030. So what this does, it allows a cell phone or landline user to call into your system, right, your main number, and at the main greeting, they would enter in the extension number, right, to 1030, and then the system will ask them to enter in the PIN number, and then your staff member will hear dial tone. They can then enter in a phone number and make an outbound call. And the outbound call, the caller ID won't be your staff member's cell phone number, but instead your main number, or whatever the default caller ID is for the account. Now, for new accounts, this by default is not an enabled feature. That's something you can request. The concern being is that someone could dial in and try to figure out the extension number and PIN number, and then they can make outbound calls on your account without you knowing it right away. For our migrated customers, this would also be where you would see auto route or select route. Currently, if you need to make changes to those, you need to send in a request to support because we have to do it for you. But that will be changing in the future. Call logs. Basically, this shows the account activity for calls coming in and out of the system. Right, green arrow to the right means a call came in. You can click on it to get a little bit more information about what was going on. And normally you can see like what user they went to or what devices they went to. The little fire hydrant icon, this will create an email that you can send to support. In the body of the email, just type in what you experienced, right? So like you can say, hey, this call came in, my phone never rang. Right? That'll at least give us a better idea of what is happening or why you're reporting the call. Right, feature codes. I've mentioned a couple of these. These are what you can use from your VoIP phones to navigate through or enable features. Right, so you got call center, you got call forward from a VoIP phone, the hot desking one, as well as these others. These are also available on our website under the dash support pages, so you have to log in to see them. All right, up here, we've been on the dashboard, so let's go over to ACD queues. So ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. That's a call center feature. In some ways, this is a more advanced version of ring groups, mostly in terms of routing options. The advantage groups have over queues is that currently queues can only send calls to VoIP devices, right? Soft phone, web phone, SIP phone. Groups, it doesn't care what device you have, right? It can send calls to a cell phone, it can send calls to a VoIP phone. Now, if you click on Add New Queues, it will take you into this kind of field here. So you give it a name, and a queue can have either an extension number or a phone number, right? It can't have both, unlike a group. One thing to keep in mind, this is standard queues, and there's also pro queues. Standard queues start at either $15 or $30 per month per queue, depending on your plan. Pro queues start at $99, depending on your plan. And then you've got routing strategies. So you've got ring all, right? That's not blast ring like you can do on the ring groups. And then this one here is on most idle, meaning whoever of my staff has been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call that comes in. You also have round robin, which will equalize to your staff members over time. Then you've got least offered. right? So if Bob and Mary have been in my queue, Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5 calls. The next call that comes in goes to Mary because she's had the least amount of offered calls. And then there's least calls, right? So this is least amount of connected calls. So in that scenario, Bob's had 20 offered, Mary's had 5 offered. Let's say Mary has spoken to all 5 of her offered calls. Bob's only been able to speak to 2 of the 20. The next call that comes in under least calls will go to Bob because he's only spoken to 2 people. Right, so those are the more advanced routing options that are available in queues. Hold treatment, again, you can upload a file, .wav.mp3, recorded in mono. Although I think in queues you can actually do it in stereo. It's not as picky. On Queues Pro, hold treatment is much more, I guess, has more options. Under Queues Pro, you can have things like announce position. Right? So, you're number 5 in the queue for receiving a call. You can have announce approximate wait time. You can have multiple media files play too, right? So you can start off with a script saying thank you for calling, please wait, blah, 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 right? And then you can kind of have your expected wait time announcement. Then you can have another file play, which is just like hold music, right? And then you can have another announcement for their approximate wait time. You can have another script play, etc. All right, queue timeout. This is how much time an inbound caller can wait on hold, measured in seconds. Queue call limit, you can limit the number of people who are inbound callers who are in your queue. If you put 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty, that means if you have no staff members logged in, treat any inbound call as if they've already hit this timeout. Escalation queue means you're sending calls to a second queue, right? So call comes in, and let's say all your staff is busy on a call, then it'll overflow into the second queue, or your staff members weren't able to pick up. And then the escalation call flow after timeout. So after this timeout hits, send the caller to this voicemail box. Now, if you actually have an escalation queue, right? So call comes in, goes to the escalation queue. It still keeps track of this timer. And so when that timer hits, it will then send that caller to this voicemail box on this first queue. Okay, agent behavior, agent recovery time. So after an agent is done with the call, right? The call ends. How much time in seconds are they given before they're offered a second call? Typically, this is in the range of 15 to 30 seconds, not 300. Not sure why that's that way. But then after that timer expires, they can be offered another call from the queue. Force away on reject or missed call, excuse me. So if an agent misses a call, the system will then put them in away mode. They have to put themselves back in ready to accept calls again. And then agent connect timeout is how much time we're trying to reach that agent. And again, since queues only currently work with VoIP devices, 20 seconds is typically plenty. And then you would click on Save Changes. So that's the queue creation process. The next thing you would want to do is look at the members icon here, person with a little headset. And then you would click on Manage Members. All right, so the list on your left, these are people who are not in queues. The list on the right, these are all the people you have assigned as being available to be in a queue. Right, and then you could click on a person and then click on Add Queue Members. Likewise, you can click on someone and remove them from being a queue member. So once you have your staff member moved over here to the right, you would then click back on the queues. You would click on the queues here, and then you can add agents or managers. And again, it's going to choose from the available list of people. And then you just click and drag, and then you would click on Save Changes. Now, once your staff members are assigned to a queue, right, they'll have an option here for ACD queues. So then they'll come to this page, they would click on begin session. So now they say, okay, now I'm ready to receive. Now they're marked away, so they're not actually ready to get calls. And you see here, I've been added. You have a number 1 here in this queue. That means I'm in this queue. And you see I'm red. That means I'm marked away. Now I can change myself, mark as ready. So now I'm green, meaning, hey, I'm ready to take calls. And again, you can do the login and the ready with feature codes. Over here, the phone icon, you can select the device that you want to accept calls on. And again, it's right now restricted to VoIP phones. You can also do select all, so it'll ring all your devices. And then at the end of your day, you would just log out. Queues Pro also has the ability for managers to whisper to an agent that's on a call, as well as barge into a call to take over if they need to. They also have a performance section over here, so they can compare agents in terms of like the number of calls they've taken, etc. Blacklist. This, if you click on Edit Blacklist, you can create a new list or use an existing list to block numbers from reaching your system, right? So you give the list a name, and then you click on Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, and then click on Save. Block Anonymous means if we don't get valid caller ID coming in, would also block those calls from connecting. But you click on Save, and then you go back to Settings, and then you make sure that list is on this right-hand side under Selected, and then you click Update. So now any phone numbers on those 2 selected lists that try to call any of my main numbers, they get a busy tone, right? So they're not connecting to us at all. All right, faxes. As an admin, you can get to any fax box on the system. This allows you to see their inbound or outbound faxes, as well as the email to fax logs, which, like if you had someone who had a problem faxing out, under details, there's a little eyeball icon. If you click on that, it'll give you more information about what happened. So you would see things like invalid attachment, or the user doesn't have a fax box, because let's say they use their personal email instead of the work email to send out a fax. Monitor is not active on most accounts, but what this does, if you have it enabled, or if your plan has it included, I should say, you can see your staff members and their status, right? Green means they're ready for a call. Blue means they would be on an inbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away. Yellow means they're on an external call, usually outbound. And then gold means they're on recovery time from a queue call. And you've got these other options for available in Busy. The recording manager, that takes you to where your call recordings are stored, hosted by AWS. That uses your Dash login to log in, and then you can download or listen to your call recordings. Reports is in beta. This is advanced reporting, so it's more granular and actually more powerful than the call logs. This does, as far as I know, that when this goes live, it will be included in select plans or as a paid upgrade. User portal. Every user on your account has their own user portal. This is where they can access voicemails if you don't have delete after notification enabled. They can view their call history, both inbound and outbound. They can view their fax history. The contact list, this is all the Dash, or all your account information, right? So everyone's extension, as well as the groups, and etc. You're not able to add your personal contacts to this list. Conference, this is where users can manage their conferencing, right? They can invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock a conference. They can mute everybody, unmute everybody, and the conference. When you're actually in a conference on particular participants, you can mute a specific participant as well as kick a particular participant. Over here is where they can adjust their PIN numbers, and then as well as control what happens when people join or leave, right? Entry tones or exit tones. Settings and devices. Again, this is where your staff members can enable their call forwarding themselves into which device, as well as see the status of their devices. Voicemails. Again, any admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. This is particularly useful for your created voicemail boxes or for any voicemail box that gets full. You can then either play back the greetings or delete the files. And then lastly here we have webhooks. This is if you want to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in this, you'd want to talk to our sales team. They have some additional qualification information they would need to get, as well as some sample code that you could use to create the webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see samples of what you can do with webhooks. And that is everything. So I'll go back to the dashboard here. I'm going to wait around for a couple minutes to see if anyone has any questions. I haven't seen any pop up in chat. So if you have a question, feel free to ask a question there. And if you don't have any questions, I thank you for your time today. But as I said, I'll wait around for a minute or so in case people do have questions. Oh, one thing I should point out, it's not showing up on this account here, but we do have multiple auto attendants available on select plans. It usually shows up like right around here. With multiple auto attendants, you can actually create sub-menuing on your account, meaning someone goes to your virtual receptionist, they hit a menu option, and then they get a new greeting and a whole new set of options to choose from. And you can link those back and forth. The other thing that people do with multiple attendants is if they have multiple businesses coming into the same account, then they can have each of the main numbers for those businesses have their own greeting and their own menu options. I'm not sure why it's not showing up here, but if you go to yesterday's live stream, it was showing up, and I talked about the auto attendance and sub-menuing on that stream. All right, not seeing any questions come through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you again for your time today, and I hope you have